it's your girl Fairy Queens here, and welcome back to another video. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing amazing. Today I'm going to be going over the best spells for each school in Wizard 101. I picked out 10 of the best spells in Wizard 101, and each of the 7 schools have ranked on this list. Some of them have even ranked more than once. This is also important to note that these spells are being ranked as of September 2020. So if these spells happen to get nerfed or buffed, this is prior to that. So without any further ado, let's get started. The first spell on the list is Abominable Weaver. Abominable Weaver is an ice spell. It costs 5 regular pips to cast, but it also costs a shadow pip. It has an accuracy of 75%. This spell does 790 to 910 ice damage, and it also gives a -50 universal tower shield to yourself. You'll see a lot of people using this spell in PvP for this reason. This spell is extremely OP, and before the nerf, it was even better. Abominable Weaver is arguably the best spell in game. For the School of Death, I have chosen Deer Knight. Deer Knight is a death school spell, and it costs, again, 5 pips to cast this. It has an accuracy of 85%. It deals 300 plus 270 death damage over 3 rounds to all enemies. For the School of Death, this is an insanely good spell. Deer Knight can be used against mob battles or even in PvPs. This is a really good AoE because you don't get Scarecrow until level 48, whereas you can get Deer Knight at any level. The only issue with Deer Knight is that it is a lore spell, so you'll probably have to craft it, farm for it, or buy it through the packs. The next best spell in-game is Medusa. Medusa is a myth school spell, and it costs 8 pips to cast with an accuracy of 80%. It deals 700 myth damage and stuns the target for 2 rounds. It also gives 1 stun shield to the target, so stun chaining is really simple. Medusa is used a lot in PvP. It can also be used in boss battles, however, some bosses have stun resist, so it may not be as efficient. If your opponent hasn't stun blocked though, this is almost a guaranteed win. The next best spell in-game is Pixie. Pixie is a life school spell, and it costs 4 pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 85%, and it restores 550 health to all allies. Before Pixie, we had Unicorn. In comparison, Unicorn only does 275 health to all allies. So Pixie was a major upgrade. As a healer, it's almost essential to have Pixie. The next best spell is Minotaur. Minotaur is a myth school spell, and it costs 5 pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 80%, and it deals 50 damage plus 445 myth damage. Ever since the nerf with Orthrus, Minotaur is one of a kind. If your opponent has a tower shield that you're looking to get around, Minotaur is the perfect spell for you. The first hit is super low and can easily remove tower shields. The second hit is the main one. If it's enchanted, this spell can do a lot. It's very unique in that sense. The next best spell in-game is Burning Rampage. Burning Rampage is a fire school spell, and it costs 5 pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 75%, and it deals 70 fire damage plus 700 fire damage 3 rounds later. Like Minotaur, this is good to get around shields. However, it can be a little bit tricky. I would say that this is mainly a PvP spell, and if you use it right, you can win. You have to make sure that your opponent does not triage the overtime, and it's probably best to follow with a fire elf. Aside from that, there's no getting around this spell. Burning Rampage is almost essential for fire PvP. The next best spell in-game is Earthquake. Earthquake is a mid-school spell, and it costs 6 pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 80%, and it deals 370 myth damage, and it removes all charms and wards from all enemies. This is so good, especially in 4v4s. When used correctly, this can definitely help you win the game. Earthquake is so unique in that sense. The next best spell in-game is Judgment. Judgment is a balance school spell, and it costs all of your pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 85%, and it deals 100 balance damage per pip. If you save up a lot of pips, this can do so much damage. Or if you have no pips and your opponent has 10 health left, this can win the game for you. Judgment can be used for PvP and PvE. The next best spell in-game is Fire Elf. Fire Elf is a fire school spell and it costs 2 pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 75% and it deals 100 fire damage plus 210 fire damage over 3 rounds. When used with a blade and an enchant, this can do a lot of damage. Or if your opponent is using a lot of shields, use a Fire Elf. Its low pip cost is really good for PvP. The best thing about this spell is definitely its low pip cost. For 2 pips, that's a lot of damage. And finally, the next best spell in-game is Tempest. Tempest is a Storm School spell, and like Judgment, it costs all of your pips to cast. It has an accuracy of 70% and it deals 80 storm damage per pip to all enemies. Like Judgment, this can either do a lot or very little. The unique thing about Tempest is that it hits all enemies and it can really carry you through questing. Or if used with a blade and a critical, you can do an insane amount of damage to even PvP opponents. So in my opinion, these are all the best spells in Wizard 101. What do you think are the best spells in Wizard 101? Leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to read all of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a big thumbs up and a comment down below. Bye!